Hey, welcome to episode 4 of 25 levels of cutting boards. This time we're starting off with a board called Tipped Stripes, which first requires the cutting of strips from Ash, Bidoof, Sapelli, Purple Heart, and Black Palm. Once the strips are cut down, I plane them down with a drum sander and then glue them together to make a long 5-color plank. Then I take my bandsaw and cut the board at an acute angle and plane down that phase before gluing the piece back on the other side using angled parts with tape and superglue. Then I pass it 6 times through the table saw to make 50mm strips and get a total width of 300mm. Then I cut them in half randomly and switch the 2 halves before gluing them together, and that glue up was a bit complicated. I then add chamfers to the top and bottom, sand down the board, and add my usual CNC groove as well as holes that I drill for the feet. Then I can finally oil the board and then wax it using a mixture of beeswax and linseed oil, and finally add the feet. The end result is a very good looking edge grain board that slightly looks chaotic but in a good way. The second board is another woven board like in the previous episode, but it's completely different too. Here I start out by cutting stripes of Sapelli, Ash, Bidoof, Wenge, Tigerwood, and Zebrano, and make a chevron pattern from the Bidoof and Ash. Now usually I prepare multiple chevron patterns in advance to get clean cuts, but here since I wanted to save wood instead, I made it by starting out with a simple straight batten with alternating Bidoof and Ash, and that was simpler to glue, and then cut it multiple times using the bandsaw and glued it after. That results in more material savings, but you can see bandsaw lines. I personally like those because they have their own pattern, but it's very subjective. I then make a base ash board, and once it's ready and sanded down, I glue some double-sided tape to it and start weaving like in the previous video, except this time, after every cut, I actually glue up everything together and not just 2 separate boards. This results in woods being separated more evenly with larger sections, and it's less chaotic than the other type of weave. This also means that for the last cut, with the chevron, switching the 2 halves results in not a single, but a double chevron, and that is really cool. Once the board itself is trimmed down, the edges are chamfered, the holes for the feet are drilled, the CNC groove is carved out, and the oil is spread out on the board. The end result is a beautiful woven board with a double chevron wave in the middle, which looks really great. Now let's move on to the final board. This one is an end grain cutting board with a Basketweave pattern, and you will be seeing mostly end grain boards from now on in this series. So we're starting off by cutting strips of Ash and Sapelli that we glue to get a square section of mostly Ash with 2 Sapelli outlines on the sides. Once 6 of those parts are made, I glue them together, alternating the direction of the lines by 90 degrees every time, and glue the result. Then I sand it down on the drum sander and cut strips from it, and then I flip 90 degrees to get the final end grain pattern and glue that up. The end result is planed with the sander again, and then with my random orbital sander, and I add chamfers to the top and bottom drill holes, make the CNC groove, and oil the board. Final result looks great, especially with Sapelli being so dark that you can barely see the end grain pattern, and it looks a lot like a clean basket weave where the Ash pattern is emphasized. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you feel that my work deserves a bit of recognition, I really would appreciate it if you shared this video or clicked on the bell to get notifications. I will see you quite soon with boards 13 through 15.